The mysterious disappearance. The year was 2087. Earth had seen its fair share of strange events and mysteries, but none as puzzling as the sudden disappearance of multiple alien fleets that had been hovering around the planet for years. Scientists, politicians, and even military forces had watched in awe as massive fleets of alien ships appeared in the skies, seemingly out of nowhere. They weren't hostile, at least not directly. Instead, they lingered, observing Earth, as though they were waiting for something. Humanity had learned to live with their silent presence. But then, without warning, the fleets vanished. One day, the ships were there, visible in the sky, massive structures whose designs no one could fully understand. The next day, they were simply gone. There were no signs of battle or destruction, no signs of communication, just emptiness. The world was left in confusion. The governments of Earth scrambled to explain what had happened. Military satellites scanned the skies, searching for any trace of the alien fleets. Space agencies and scientific organizations joined forces, analyzing data from the time leading up to the fleet's disappearance. But they found nothing. No energy readings, no traces of weapons fire, just complete silence. The world was left asking the same question. Where did they go? At first, people speculated. Some believed the aliens had finally decided to attack, only to vanish in the midst of their plans. Others thought it was some kind of intergalactic experiment, an advanced form of technology, or even a grand strategy. Maybe the fleets were part of a much larger force, and their disappearance was just a temporary retreat. But no one knew for sure. The truth was, no one had ever fully understood what the aliens' intentions were. No one had been able to communicate with them, and their ships had been too advanced for human technology to crack. News outlets around the world ran story after story about the vanishing fleets. Some reported strange sightings of ships or faint signals in the deep reaches of space, but each lead turned out to be another dead end. Scientists debated theories in front of cameras. Politicians made speeches, promising to find the truth. But as the days passed, the mystery only grew. In the midst of the global chaos, a group of scientists at the Earth Defense Initiative, a top-secret organization working on Earth's defense strategies, made a shocking discovery. The alien fleets hadn't just vanished. They had left something behind. A faint, cryptic signal was detected coming from the direction where the fleets had been. It wasn't strong, but it was enough to confirm something was there. The signal was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It was irregular, pulsing, and carried a deep sense of urgency. But what did it mean? A sense of unease settled over the world. Governments worked in overdrive, trying to decode the signal. The military launched new satellites to track its origin. But there was a problem. The signal wasn't coming from any familiar place. It came from a point in space where no star or planet existed. It was as if the fleets had left a trail leading into the unknown, a deep, dark part of space that humanity had never dared to explore. While Earth's greatest minds focused on decoding the signal, something else happened. People started noticing strange occurrences. Some individuals reported seeing mysterious lights in the sky at night, far beyond the range of normal satellites. Others spoke of strange dreams, ones filled with images of alien landscapes and cryptic symbols. It felt as though something was slowly awakening, a presence lurking just beyond the edge of human knowledge. Was it possible that the aliens had left behind more than just a signal? Could there be a hidden message, something even more vital than anyone had realized? The mystery deepened when an unmarked ship arrived on Earth's doorstep. It was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Sleek, black, and shaped like an elongated triangle, it floated above the atmosphere with a quiet hum, as though it was waiting for something. No one knew where it came from or who sent it, but it was clear that its arrival was no coincidence. The entire world held its breath as scientists and military leaders scrambled to make contact. This new arrival only intensified the fear and speculation. Was it another alien fleet that had returned? Or was it a warning from the vanished fleets, telling humanity to leave well enough alone? The unanswered questions hung over Earth like a dark cloud, causing panic to rise in every corner of the world. Governments issued martial law, urging people to stay inside and avoid any public gatherings. Something had changed. The strange signal, the disappearance, and the arrival of the mysterious ship were all connected, but no one knew how. As the days went by, the signal grew stronger, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. There was a feeling that the entire planet was being watched. It was as if the aliens had planned for this moment, an event that no one on Earth could have predicted. Every attempt to investigate further only led to more questions. Where had the fleets gone? Why had they left? And most importantly, what did this all mean for the future of Earth? The first part of the mystery was only the beginning. The signal, the strange ship, and the unanswered questions would soon lead to even more terrifying discoveries. But for now, Earth was left in the dark, with only fragments of information to go on. The world would soon learn that the mystery of the vanishing alien fleets was just the first step in a much larger, much more dangerous journey, and humanity had no idea what lay ahead. The first contact. The world had been gripped by uncertainty ever since the mysterious disappearance of the alien fleets. Yet, one thing was certain. The strange signal was growing stronger. It seemed to pulse with a rhythm, as if it was trying to communicate. It was unlike anything humanity had encountered. There was no pattern, no predictability to it, just an endless series of strange pulses, each one more urgent than the last. In a quiet corner of Earth's space program, a team of scientists working at the Earth Defense Initiative gathered to study the signal. They called themselves the Vanguard Team, and they were tasked with decoding the alien message that had appeared out of nowhere. The team consisted of brilliant minds from all around the world, and they had access to some of the most advanced technologies ever developed. But even with all their expertise, they were baffled. The signal didn't seem to follow any known principles of communication. It was a puzzle they couldn't solve. Despite the growing tension, the scientists didn't give up. They knew that humanity's survival might depend on unlocking the mystery behind the signal. After weeks of analysis, they made an unexpected breakthrough. The signal was coming from a specific location in space, far beyond the solar system, deep in the unknown reaches of the galaxy. It wasn't just a random signal. It was a message. But who was sending it, and why? In a decision that would change the course of history, a fleet of Earth's most advanced ships was assembled to investigate the source of the signal. The mission was risky, but the team understood that they couldn't ignore the mystery any longer. Humanity had to know what lay beyond the veil of the unknown. The fleet launched into space, leaving Earth behind. As the ships sailed further into the darkness, the crew began to feel a growing sense of unease. The void of space was vast and lonely, but the signal seemed to guide them, its pulsations drawing them closer to something that none of them could yet understand. Days turned into weeks as the fleet traveled deeper into space. The crew spent their time analyzing the signal, trying to decode it, trying to make sense of the strange patterns that emerged from the deep silence of the universe. But no matter how much they analyzed, they couldn't pinpoint its true origin. It seemed as though the signal was coming from multiple directions at once. The closer they got to its source, the more disorienting it became. Then one day, as they crossed into an unexplored sector of space, the fleet encountered something unexpected. A massive alien structure appeared out of nowhere, like a shadow emerging from the darkness. It was a colossal structure, unlike anything the human race had ever seen. Its surface was covered in strange symbols, and it emitted a faint energy field that pulsed in rhythm with the signal they had been chasing. The ships in the fleet stopped dead in their tracks. For the first time in history, humanity had made direct contact with alien technology. This was no longer a theory. This was real. But what did it mean? And who had built it? The crew of the lead ship sent a small team of astronauts to investigate. They suited up in their advanced spacesuits and boarded a shuttle that would take them closer to the massive structure. As they approached, The sheer scale of the object became even more overwhelming. The structure was enormous, stretching across light years of space, as if it had been waiting for them. When the team landed on its surface, they discovered something even more startling. The structure was alive. It wasn't just a piece of alien technology. It was an artifact of a civilization far older and more advanced than anything humanity had ever imagined. The surface of the structure seemed to shift and change as they moved, reacting to their presence. It was as if the artifact itself was watching them, studying them, and perhaps even communicating with them in ways they couldn't yet understand. As the astronauts explored further, they stumbled upon an area that seemed to be the heart of the structure. There, they found an inscription. It wasn't a language they could recognize, but it was unmistakably alien. The message, however, was clear. Warning. The astronauts quickly transmitted the message back to Earth, but the signal cut off abruptly, as if something was interfering with their communication. The team tried to send another message, but there was no response. Something had gone wrong, and that's when the first sign of trouble appeared. Suddenly, an energy blast fired from the heart of the structure, striking the lead ship in the fleet. The ship was badly damaged, and the crew was thrown into a state of panic. The fleet's commander made a snap decision. They had to retreat, but as they tried to move away from the alien structure, they found themselves surrounded. Out of the darkness of space, strange ships began to emerge. These weren't the same alien fleets that had once surrounded Earth. These ships were different, more advanced, more dangerous. They didn't look like they were here to negotiate or make peace. They were here to defend something. But what? The fleet's commander ordered an immediate retreat, but it was too late. The alien ships surrounded them, cutting off all escape routes. The fleet was trapped in the cold vacuum of space, and the astronauts on the ground were cut off from communication with Earth. It was clear now that the vanishing fleets weren't the only mystery humanity had to face. There was something else out there, a force far more powerful and dangerous than anyone could have imagined. And as the fleet prepared to face this new threat, one question echoed in their minds. Was this the true purpose of the vanishing alien fleets? The stage was set for humanity's first real confrontation with an alien force that no one could have predicted. And the mysteries surrounding the vanishing fleets were only beginning to unfold. A terrifying encounter. The fleet, now trapped by the mysterious alien ships, was in a state of panic. The vastness of space felt even more isolating as strange, dark ships surrounded them from every direction. Their advanced technology was far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. These were not the fleets that had disappeared from Earth, but they were clearly connected to them in some way. The lead ship, Eclipse, was heavily damaged from the earlier blast. Sparks flew across its control room, and alarms blared in the background. Commander Rachel Vance stood at the front of the command deck, trying to maintain order as the crew scrambled to repair the ship. She knew the stakes had changed. This wasn't just about investigation anymore. It was a fight for survival. "Commander, we've lost contact with the rest of the fleet," Lieutenant Harper shouted, his hands frantic on the controls. "They've cut off all communications. We're completely isolated." Rachel gritted her teeth. This was no accident. Whoever, or whatever, was behind these ships had planned this carefully. The mystery was deepening, and it was becoming more and more dangerous with each passing moment. She had to act quickly, or they would be lost to the void of space. "All ships are to power down and stand by," she ordered firmly. "We need to avoid provoking them further. Let's see if we can make contact." The alien ships surrounding them remained eerily silent. Their hulls were dark, almost absorbing the light around them, and they seemed to pulse with an energy that was both alien and unsettling. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They just watched. Hours passed. The Eclipse sat in the cold stillness, its crew tense and on edge. The silence was maddening. Then, as if responding to the fleet's waiting, a signal suddenly cut through the air. It was like the hum of an engine, but there was no source. It felt like the signal was coming from all around them, as though the ships themselves were communicating. "Put the signal through," Rachel ordered. The words that came through were distorted and garbled, but they were undeniably alien. The voice was mechanical, cold, and devoid of emotion. "You should not have come." The words echoed across the ship's communication system. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest. The message was clear. Whoever, or whatever, was out there didn't want them to be here. The signal had been a warning, but it had gone unheard. And now they were trapped in the heart of this alien force. Before Rachel could speak, the display in front of her began to flicker. The strange alien ships around them shifted slightly, as if aligning themselves in a formation. Their engines hummed louder, and a beam of light suddenly shot out from the nearest ship, striking the Eclipse's hull. The ship jolted violently, and sparks flew from the control panels. The crew was thrown from their seats, and Rachel felt the ship's stability start to fail. "Shields are down," shouted Lieutenant Harper, his voice rising in panic. "We're losing power." Rachel's mind raced. She had only moments to make a decision. These ships were not here to talk, to negotiate, or to explore. They were a force of destruction. The message they had received was a clear warning. They weren't just investigating the fleet's disappearance anymore. They were now caught in the aftermath of something much darker, a force far more terrifying than anything humanity had ever imagined. "Get us out of here," Rachel ordered, grabbing hold of the captain's seat as the ship was rocked by another violent blast. "Full power to engines. Now." But just as they tried to accelerate, something unexpected happened. The alien ships seemed to anticipate their every move. As if synchronized, the alien ships closed in, surrounding them completely. No matter what direction the Eclipse tried to move, the ships were right there, blocking all escape routes. It was as though they had no intention of letting the human fleet leave this place alive. "This is bad," Lieutenant Harper whispered, his eyes wide in terror. The mysterious ships didn't attack again. They simply watched, waiting. The silence returned, and once again, the hum of the alien ships filled the air. But this time, there was something different about the atmosphere. It felt like the calm before a storm. There was no question now. They had stumbled upon something much larger than anyone had realized. The fleets that had once surrounded Earth had likely vanished for a reason, and that reason was something much more dangerous than humanity could ever have expected. Rachel's thoughts raced. What did they want? Why were they here? And what had happened to the alien fleets? The answers seemed to lie in the very heart of this mysterious alien force, but no one knew what it would take to uncover them. Then, as if responding to their fear, the voice came again. This time, it was louder, clearer, and more insistent. "This is your final warning. Leave. Now." Rachel felt a chill run down her spine. The stakes had just escalated. This was no longer about science or exploration. This was about survival. Humanity was being forced into a confrontation with a force beyond their understanding. And the terrifying part was, they didn't know if they would ever be able to leave this place alive. With the alien ships closing in, Rachel knew they had only one choice. They had to find a way to fight back or risk becoming part of a larger, terrifying mystery that could swallow them whole. As the tension built, one thing became painfully clear. The truth behind the vanishing alien fleets was not what they had hoped. It was far more complex and much more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. And they were about to find out just how deep the mystery went. The truth unveiled. The fleet was trapped. The alien ships, cold and implacable, loomed around them, cutting off every escape route. Their advanced technology had taken the human ships by surprise, and now, as the hours passed, the crew of the Eclipse was no closer to understanding what was really happening. The eerie silence between the alien ships was deafening, broken only by the occasional hum of their energy fields. The message was clear. Humanity was not welcome here. Commander Rachel Vance stood in the command center, her eyes focused on the dark space outside the ship. She could feel the weight of every decision, every moment. It was as though the fate of the entire human race was hanging in the balance. There was a sinking feeling in her stomach, but she refused to show it to the crew. They needed a leader, someone who could remain calm in the face of the unknown. "We have to find a way to communicate with them," she said, her voice steady, though she felt anything but. "We need answers. The truth." But it wasn't just the fleet around them that posed a threat. There was something else, a presence, something deeply unsettling, lurking just beyond the reach of their understanding. The alien ships weren't acting like any enemy they had faced before. They weren't attacking. They were waiting, observing. And that was the most terrifying part of it all. Rachel turned to her senior officer, Lieutenant Harper, who had been tirelessly trying to establish a connection with Earth. "Any luck reaching command?" Harper shook his head. "No, Commander. Our communications are still being blocked. It's as if these ships are jamming everything we try to send." A thick silence followed as the crew exchanged worried glances. Rachel couldn't help but wonder, what was the purpose of this blockade? Why had the alien fleets disappeared from Earth? And why were these ships, whatever they were, appearing now? Then, without warning, the lights in the command room flickered, and the entire ship shuddered. The hum of the alien ships outside grew louder, and the voice, the mechanical, cold voice, returned. It spoke directly into their communication system, bypassing all protocols. "You were never meant to know the truth." Rachel's heart raced. The words sent a chill through her entire body. What truth? What had happened to the fleets? Why were they hiding this from Earth? Desperately, she looked to her team for answers. "What does that mean?" she asked, more to herself than to anyone else. "What truth?" Just then, an image flickered to life on the main screen in front of her. It was an image of the fleet they had encountered, but it wasn't just the ships. They were surrounded by a vast, complex network of alien technology. The structure, the one they had seen earlier, was only part of something much larger. The images began to unfold, revealing a terrifying secret. The alien fleets that had surrounded Earth for years weren't just there to observe. They had been part of an experiment, one that had gone horribly wrong. The fleets had been designed to test an energy field capable of reshaping space itself, creating a kind of controlled collapse, a powerful new form of energy. But the experiment had been unstable, and it had caused a chain reaction that led to the fleet's disappearance. The alien ships had been searching for a solution, trying to stabilize the energy field, but the damage was irreversible. That's why they had vanished from Earth. They had been drawn into the deep void of space, searching for a place to hide, to fix what had gone wrong. But their failure had been catastrophic. The fleets had been abandoned, lost in the process of their own experiment. But there was more. The voice came again, clearer now, as if the alien force had finally decided to explain itself. "The energy you see is what remains. We have been trying to contain it, but it is spreading. It cannot be stopped." Rachel felt a sense of dread wash over her. The fleet's failure wasn't just an accident. It was the beginning of something much worse. The energy from the failed experiment was still alive, still spreading through space, and it was drawing the alien forces to it. They had come to Earth, not to conquer, but to contain it, and they had failed. The alien ships around them weren't here to negotiate. They were here to warn humanity. The spreading energy, if left unchecked, could destroy entire star systems, perhaps even entire galaxies. They had come to Earth because it was the last place they could attempt to stop it. The humans, they realized, might be the only ones with a chance to prevent it from spiraling out of control. Suddenly, Rachel understood. The alien fleets hadn't disappeared because they were retreating. They had vanished because they were dying. Their attempt to harness this energy had destroyed them. And now, Earth was the only place where humanity had a chance to stop the chaos from spreading further. She looked at her crew, seeing the realization sink into their faces. The weight of their situation hit them all at once. The mysterious signal, the disappearing fleets, the alien ships. It was all connected. But now, humanity faced a decision. Could they take control of the technology left behind by the alien fleets, or would they fall victim to the same fate that had befallen their would-be saviors? "We need to stop this," Rachel said, her voice resolute. "Whatever it takes, we have to stop this energy from spreading." The crew nodded, understanding that the road ahead would not be easy. But they now knew their purpose. They had to fight, not just for their survival, but for the survival of every living thing in the galaxy. But as they prepared for what lay ahead, a new question loomed. If they succeeded in stopping the energy, would the alien force allow them to live? Or was there something more, something darker, that the aliens hadn't revealed yet? The crew knew they were about to face their greatest challenge, a challenge that would test not only their bravery but their very humanity. The truth was out there, and it was far more terrifying than they had ever imagined. The human solution. The crew of the Eclipse now faced a terrifying reality. They were not just in the midst of an intergalactic mystery. They were at the very heart of a cosmic disaster. The failed experiment of the alien fleets had unleashed a dangerous energy, and the only hope to stop it lay in the hands of humanity. The alien force that surrounded them, once so intimidating and implacable, had turned into reluctant allies, warning them of the danger but offering no easy answers. Commander Rachel Vance had always believed that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt, to overcome, and to push forward in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. But now she wasn't so sure. The situation was beyond anything they had trained for. The alien technology at their disposal was complex, unstable, and beyond their comprehension. Yet, if they didn't find a solution soon, the consequences would be catastrophic. "We can't keep waiting," Rachel said, her voice calm despite the storm of thoughts racing through her mind. "We need to use what we have, human ingenuity. It's our only shot." Lieutenant Harper, ever the optimist, stepped forward. "Commander, we've already seen that we're outmatched. The alien technology is too advanced for us to just use it without understanding how it works." "I know," Rachel replied, "but there's a reason why the aliens reached out to us, why they haven't destroyed us already. They need us, and we need to use that." The crew had spent countless hours analyzing the alien structure and the failed experiment. They had discovered a buried piece of information that could hold the key to reversing the damage. The one piece of technology that had not been destroyed in the process. A device capable of controlling the energy field that had gone out of control. But accessing it would not be easy. The device was hidden deep within the structure, inside what appeared to be a core chamber. The problem was that the chamber was heavily guarded by a series of automated defenses, advanced alien technology designed to protect it at all costs. And even if they managed to bypass the defenses, there was no guarantee that the device would even work. The energy had already spread too far, and the damage might be irreparable. "We have no choice," Rachel said firmly, her resolve hardening. "We need to make our way to the core chamber and get that device. It's the only thing that can help us contain the energy before it destroys us all." As the crew prepared for the dangerous mission ahead, a sense of unity and determination filled the ship. They were facing the unknown, but for the first time since the alien fleets had disappeared, they knew what they had to do. They weren't going to give up. They couldn't. The Eclipse maneuvered closer to the alien structure, carefully avoiding the sensor systems of the alien ships that hovered just outside their reach. As they entered the core's vicinity, the team braced for what lay ahead. They knew the next few hours would test their strength, their courage, and their ability to think on their feet. There was no room for error. Inside the structure, the temperature dropped drastically, and the lights flickered as if reacting to their presence. The walls seemed to pulse with an energy that was both unsettling and hypnotic. Rachel's pulse quickened as they moved deeper into the heart of the alien ship. The further they went, the more alien the environment became. The technology was strange, organic, and mechanical all at once. It felt like the ship itself was alive, watching them, waiting for them to make a mistake. The first obstacle came when they reached the outer perimeter of the core chamber. Automated defense drones materialized out of the shadows, their weapons trained on the crew. The drones didn't speak, didn't hesitate. They simply moved to intercept. "Get ready," Rachel ordered, and the team sprang into action. The crew had been trained for combat situations, but nothing could have prepared them for the speed and precision of the alien drones. They moved quickly, firing blasts of energy that sent the crew scrambling for cover. Lieutenant Harper led the charge, firing their weapons and managing to disable a few drones. But for every one they took down, 2 more appeared. "Commander, we need to think fast," Harper yelled over the chaos. "We can't keep fighting them." Rachel nodded, scanning the area for any way out. Her eyes landed on a series of glowing symbols on the wall, a pattern that seemed to shift in response to their movements. It was a control panel, but it wasn't like anything she had ever seen before. The symbols were alien, and the technology seemed to be powered by some kind of energy field. "We need to disable the defenses," Rachel said, approaching the panel. "Harper, cover me." Harper nodded, providing cover fire as Rachel worked quickly to decipher the panel. The symbols on the wall began to shift and rearrange, almost as though they were alive, reacting to Rachel's touch. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she struggled to understand the technology. Time was running out. With a final push, she pressed the last symbol into place. The drones froze for a moment, and then, miraculously, they powered down. The area was silent again. Rachel let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "We're through. Let's move." They quickly advanced into the core chamber, where they found the device they had been searching for. It was an immense structure, glowing with a soft, eerie light. The energy field it contained was pulsing, unstable, and dangerous. But it was the only hope they had. Rachel approached cautiously, her hands trembling as she reached out to touch the device. The moment her fingers made contact, the energy field reacted violently, surging outward in all directions. The chamber shook as the power built to an overwhelming level. "We don't have much time," Rachel said urgently. "If we don't activate this now, we're done for." Harper and the others gathered around, preparing to assist with the final steps. They had come this far, and they couldn't afford to fail now. It was a matter of life or death. As they worked together to stabilize the device, Rachel couldn't help but think of all that had led them to this moment. The alien fleets, the vanished ships, the strange energy that had brought them to the brink of disaster. And now, humanity was on the edge of finding the solution. But even as the device activated, she knew this was just the beginning. The real battle was far from over. Would they be able to contain the energy before it spread beyond their control? Would the aliens accept humanity's intervention, or would they view this as another failed attempt, a moment of destruction? The answers would come soon enough, but for now, they had done the impossible. The first step was complete. The real fight for survival was only just beginning. The final stand. The crew of the Eclipse stood in the core chamber, surrounded by alien technology that hummed with an unnatural energy. They had successfully activated the containment device, but the situation had only grown more dire. The energy field was stabilizing, but it was clear that the device was only a temporary fix. It couldn't hold the unstable force forever. The alien ships that surrounded them, once passive observers, had begun to move again. They were no longer silent and still. The countdown had begun. "Commander, we don't have much time," Lieutenant Harper said, his voice strained with urgency. "The energy is still rising. We need to finish what we started, or this whole system is going to collapse." Rachel nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. They had bought themselves a few more minutes, but those minutes were quickly running out. The energy field that had nearly destroyed the alien fleets was now pushing outward, spreading through space in unpredictable ways. The team had managed to contain it temporarily, but that containment was fragile. If they didn't find a way to fully stabilize it, the energy would tear through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. "We need to shut it down for good," Rachel said firmly. "The device is the key, but we need to redirect the energy before it tears everything apart. We've got one shot at this." The crew scrambled to work with the alien technology, trying to understand its intricacies in real time. The task was monumental, and the pressure was suffocating. Each second felt like an eternity. The alien ships outside, still watching, had begun to emit pulses of energy, as if preparing for something catastrophic. It was clear now. They weren't just trying to contain the energy. They were preparing for a final assault. "Commander, there's a problem," said Dr. Lai, the ship's lead scientist. "The energy is interacting with the device in ways we can't predict. It's too volatile to control manually. We need to access the central control node." Rachel glanced at the screen in front of her, watching the spikes of energy fluctuate. "How do we reach it?" Dr. Lai hesitated. "The node is located in the deepest part of the structure, beyond the last layer of defense. It's protected by an automated force that hasn't been triggered yet. If we make it there, we can override the system and direct the energy to the core of the structure, where it can be absorbed." "Then let's move," Rachel ordered. "We don't have time to waste." With a team of her most trusted officers, Rachel led the way through the labyrinthine corridors of the alien structure. The walls, covered in strange, pulsating symbols, seemed to shift and change as they walked, reacting to their movements. Every step was an act of courage. Every corner held the possibility of danger. But there was no turning back. This was their only chance. As they approached the central control node, the automated defenses activated. Drones appeared from hidden chambers, their weapons charging with lethal intent. The crew opened fire, but the alien drones were fast, too fast. The crew had barely time to react as the first barrage of energy blasts hit the walls, causing the entire corridor to shake. "Move, move, move," Rachel shouted, ducking behind cover. Her team fired back, their weapons blazing as they fought their way to the control node. The air was thick with tension, the sound of energy blasts echoing through the narrow corridors. Each step was harder than the last, as if the very structure of the alien ship was pushing back against them. They reached the node, but it was surrounded by a massive, reinforced door. The door was sealed, and the security system was more advanced than anything the crew had encountered. Dr. Lai worked frantically at the panel, her fingers moving in a blur as she tried to override the system. The countdown outside was ticking away, every second bringing them closer to disaster. "Almost there," Dr. Lai said, her voice trembling. "Just a few more seconds." Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the chamber. The doors to the node opened, but the force sent the crew flying back, slamming them against the walls. Rachel's vision blurred, and her ears rang from the blast. She struggled to stand, her head spinning. "Commander," Harper shouted, his voice cutting through the haze. "We have to move. It's now or never." With the final seconds of the countdown upon them, Rachel forced herself to her feet. The device at the control node pulsed with a dangerous energy, and the alien ships outside had begun their final assault, firing beams of energy that shook the very foundations of the structure. "We're not done yet," Rachel said, her voice strained but resolute. "We activate the node now. We end this." Dr. Lai slammed the final key into place, and the node hummed to life. A brilliant, blinding light erupted from the center of the control chamber, sending waves of energy cascading through the alien structure. The field began to collapse, redirecting the unstable energy back into the core of the ship. For a moment, everything went still. The overwhelming power that had once threatened to destroy everything was now being drawn back into the heart of the alien ship. The alien ships outside began to retreat, their energy fields flickering. The pulse of energy that had once surged outward now began to dissipate, absorbed by the core. The crew could only watch as the chaos subsided. They had done it. The energy had been contained, and the immediate danger was over. But as the ship's systems began to stabilize, the reality of what they had just done set in. The battle wasn't over. The alien ships, though retreating, had not left entirely. The crew had stopped the energy from destroying everything, but there was still a question that lingered in the air. Would the aliens allow humanity to leave, or had they just sealed their fate by interfering in a crisis that had long been beyond human understanding? Rachel took a deep breath, her hands still trembling from the sheer intensity of the battle. They had survived. For now. "We've won this battle," Rachel said, her voice filled with a quiet determination. "But we'll need to be ready for what comes next." The eclipse had made it through, but the galaxy had just been changed forever. And the truth about the alien fleets, the energy, and the forces they had awakened was only beginning to unfold. Their final stand had only been the beginning. Victory or defeat. The silence that followed the final surge of energy was almost deafening. The pulse that had once threatened to unravel everything, humanity, the alien fleets, and the entire galaxy, had been contained. The crew of the Eclipse stood in the aftermath, battered but alive, surrounded by the flickering lights of the alien ship's now stabilized core. The chaotic energy that had once been the source of their terror had dissipated, and the immediate threat was over. For a brief moment, it felt like a victory. The device they had activated was still humming softly, a testament to the human ingenuity and courage that had brought them here. The alien ships that had surrounded them were slowly retreating, their engines dimming as if they were preparing to leave. The drones that had attacked them earlier were no longer active, their systems presumably deactivated by the energy that had been redirected into the core. But Rachel Vance, the commander of the Eclipse, knew better than to let her guard down too soon. This was not a simple victory. This was just one battle in a war far greater than any they had ever imagined. The alien force that had been watching them, the one that had followed the failed fleets into the depths of space, had made it clear that their purpose was to contain the energy. It was something they had been attempting to control for eons, something so powerful that it could destroy entire systems. It was a cosmic force beyond human comprehension. And though the crew of the Eclipse had been able to prevent immediate destruction, the underlying question remained. Would the aliens ever forgive humanity for interfering in something they had kept under control for so long? The ships that surrounded them, though retreating, had not completely left. The strange, ominous energy that had once filled the space around them was still there, lurking at the edges of the eclipse. And the pulse of the alien ships was far from gone. The aliens hadn't attacked, but they hadn't made peace either. Their motives remained unclear. Were they watching them? Were they preparing for another confrontation? "Commander, we've done it," Lieutenant Harper said, his voice filled with a mix of relief and exhaustion. "The energy is under control. The galaxy is safe, for now." Rachel nodded but didn't smile. She turned her eyes toward the flickering screens in front of her, watching the movement of the alien ships. They were leaving, but their departure seemed far too deliberate. It was as if they were waiting for something. The uncertainty lingered in the air. "We've stopped the immediate threat," she replied, her voice steady, but the weight of their situation hung heavy. "But this isn't over. The aliens might be leaving, but they've shown us what they're capable of, what they want." "What do we do now?" Harper asked, his eyes still scanning the screens, watching the retreating ships. Rachel thought for a moment. They had successfully neutralized the energy field, but what if the alien force returned, determined to finish what they had started? What if they viewed humanity's intervention as a threat? The stakes had just been raised, and Rachel knew that they couldn't afford to relax. Humanity was caught in the middle of something far greater than they had ever imagined. The alien fleets, the mysterious energy, the ships that had watched them, all of it pointed to a much larger, ongoing conflict, one that wasn't about to disappear. "We need to prepare," Rachel said at last, her voice hardening with resolve. "We've survived this time, but we can't predict what comes next. We don't know if the aliens will ever accept what we've done here. They may leave now, but they might come back with more force. As the eclipse drifted in space, Rachel and her crew prepared for the unknown. The battle had been won, but at what cost? The knowledge they had gained, the truth behind the alien fleets, the failed experiment, the spreading energy, had only raised more questions. What would happen if the aliens returned? What would humanity do when faced with the weight of knowledge that no one could understand? In the quiet of space, the crew of the Eclipse knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had been thrust into a much larger cosmic struggle. But one thing was certain: Earth had proved itself resilient, capable of standing up to forces far greater than itself. The truth behind the vanishing alien fleets, the mysterious energy, and the strange alien forces was still out there. And now, humanity had a role to play in a galaxy that was far more complex and dangerous than they had ever realized. But in that moment, as the eclipse sailed through the stars, one question lingered in Rachel's mind. Had they truly won? The truth was, they hadn't just been fighting for survival. They had been fighting for the future of all life, in the galaxy and beyond. And as long as they remained in the fight, there would always be a chance for victory, no matter how uncertain the outcome might be. The fate of humanity rested on the unknown, but they would face it, no matter what it took. Because one thing was certain: Earth had a place in the stars, and it would fight to keep it.